Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome to the Left Fresh Podcast. Hope everyone's enjoying their Saturday. Hope everyone's enjoying their weekend. Thank you for jumping on. If you're jumping on for the first time, I encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. Like I said, thank you all for jumping on. This is the hip hop segment, the hip hop live. At the 10 o'clock slot now, got the March Madness jumping off and everything. I like this slot too, though. I think I'm gonna keep it at this point. But yeah, pretty going on, but having a great weekend. Hope everyone else is ready to discuss some good hip hop that's come along us and graced us with this presence. Go back and discuss a couple of things, revisit a few things. A lot of good, got a good segment, got a good episode lined up for you all. Not gonna hold you, not gonna hold you. We're gonna get right into it. Last week we jumped into the best hip hop albums of the 2020s and covered a part one of it. I got part two coming up tonight. Before we do that, though, we got some recent things that occurred. First is new album releases yesterday, and most of the new album released today. Matter of fact, not even a new album released yesterday. Nothing notable that actually really came out. A couple of artists, but most notably was released just today, and that artist was Kanye West. Yeah, Kanye West dropped his latest album just today. And of course, if you all know Kanye, of course, there are some Kanye West fans, and there are some people who kind of tuned out of Kanye West. Um, but for those who still follow him, yeah, this is another entry into an extensive catalog. Um, I think those who may still kind of long for the days of college dropout and late registration and graduation, 808s and heartbreak, and my beautiful dark twisted fantasy. You know, you still kind of got traces of it in later works like Jesus and Life of Pablo and everything like that. You still got little traces of it, and yay, but the later albums kind of don't get the same reveration or don't get the same reverement as the first couple of albums. But one thing Kanye West is pretty much consistent with is his production. I mean, sometimes he gets a little out there, but for the most part, he's still one of the legendary producers of our time or the song creators. So, you know, even when the albums don't quite have the same appeal as the earlier ones, he's still going to give you like a single, give you a couple. I mean, not a single, but a couple of singles here and there. You may skip a few, but overall, this project right here, I took a listen just because it's Kanye, and to see what the quality is and everything like that. A lot of people get caught up in what he does off the mic. The social media antics and different things like that, the rants, and like I said, many people just kind of just pretty much done with Kanye. A lot of the cancellation talk and everything, but I went ahead and checked out his music just to see if he still got it or if he fell off. And production wise, I mean, he still hit on a couple of tracks. Yeah, he's still pretty he's still a pretty good producer, man. I mean, you can't take that away from him. He still can throw down some beats. Still good with the samples, still good with the sounds and the breaks and everything like that. He still drops some clever lines in there here and there. There's a lot of auto tune on here though. I will say there's a lot of auto tune on here. That I mean, some of it sounds sonically good, but a lot of it was auto tune, and it was kind of like I said, there's a few tracks that I'm probably not going to revisit. I'm gonna come across maybe one or two of these that, like I said, whatever works. Track number six on Kanye's album, this one, yeah, track number six was pretty good to me. A couple of tracks in between kind of got me. The actual title track, "Bully," has CeeLo Green on there. And I warn you all, this pretty much auto tune. I think the production was pretty good, but it was pretty much auto tune. For it to be the title track, didn't really grab at me like that. But yeah, whatever works is good. I think Sisters and Brothers was pretty well too. Yeah, Mama's Favorite was pretty much auto tune. Gotta let you know that now. Going on Organized Chaos. Yeah, Highs and Lows was pretty decent. I Can't Wait was pretty good. Yeah, Kanye kind of got into he kind of went all over the place with this album, but he kind of landed in some places though. He's got a few appearances on there. He's got Don Toliver, he's got Travis Scott. Like I said, he got CeeLo Green. Um, I think those kind of went along brand with the creativity on this project. Like I said, he's not gonna miss the mark by too much. He's not gonna quite give you, the classics that most people are gonna gravitate toward. But Kanye still has an ear for music, and he put together some good sounds on there. Like I said, if you can get aside from the social media antics, he's pretty much the same Kanye West. You know what I mean? Honestly, he doesn't rap anything like he acts on social media. That I can tell you right now. So it's kind of like, you can tell when people are just doing this for engagement and different things like that because, I mean, musically, he's pretty much the same artist. And I mean, that's kind of to his benefit and his deficit. I mean, he's kind of consistent. He's pretty consistent. But at the same time, he's not the same highs, like I said, of a college dropout or late registration, anything like that. But I mean, he did, did his thing on this one, man. I'm not gonna knock him. I was a little more impressed than I was unimpressed. So I'll say that. I mean, like I said, if you kind of follow along with his antics and everything on social media or how he acts, off the mic, then I mean, he probably might have lost you a while ago. But yeah, like I said, it was pretty much on brand. I'll probably put this on the same level as Life of Pablo or Ye or those other albums there too. Like I said, it didn't quite the later albums that didn't quite hit the same, but you still get traces of Kanye. And it's the same thing on this project right here. Kanye's gonna give you at least one of those to let you know he's still Kanye. And like I said, um, track 6, Whatever Works, yeah, that was kind of the one that kind of like, okay, he's still pretty much the Kanye. I heard the samples, I heard the rapping, that was kind of the trace of the old Kanye a little bit. But then, like I said, there's a lot of auto tune on here and everything like that. I mean, some of them had a good sound to it, I guess, but I understand that it can lose people who are not really accustomed to auto tune or melodic rap. So, but nevertheless, Kanye West popped out on March 28th today with a new release. Most people release on a Friday, but when you're Kanye West, I guess, any day's a day he's going to release. So that was pretty much like the most notable release that actually came out. Um, there was an anticipated release that didn't quite make it out, and it was anticipated to make it out for quite a while now. There's a particular artist, kind of up and coming still, but he kind of stuck in a bad label deal, and he had an album in the works with Swiss Beats. Stove God Cooks had a single that released, Welcome to My Garden. He did a lot of work with Griselda, West Side Gun, Conway the Machine, Benny the Butcher. He's worked with quite a few artists already, but he is trying to do his own thing. He's already made an album before. It was pretty much a uncover classic, Reasonable Drought, with Rock Marciano was the producer. Everybody, this one kind of snuck up on everybody and everybody loved it. And it came out in 2020. Um, on brand for this episode being the best albums of the 2020s. This is probably one of the most slept on albums. This one was real good. Like I said, um, underground classic, and people kind of been waiting for his arrival to make another album. And he's kind of in a bad label deal. Like I said, he had his album ready to go with him and Swiss Beats. It was supposed to release on yesterday, and it didn't come out. And everybody's looking for it, and everybody's like, "Oh, where is it? Where is it?" You know what I mean? Everybody's been waiting on it. And so at this point, it's been about 6 years since he's released an album. So everybody's kind of like, oh man, losing kind of hope with it and everything, kind of disillusioned. And Stove God took to his Instagram post and he posted, the track list for his album. And you can see it looked like a dope track list. Got about 13, got 12 songs on there. He's got a couple appearances. Like I said, he's got Griselda on there with West Side Gun and Benny the Butcher. He's got Pusha T, got Jada Kiss. You know, he looked like he had everything ready to go, and it looked like he's being held back by his record label, which is unfortunate because he is pretty talented. You see his caption had to clear some dust out the air. Double neck must be stepped on to my real fans. Appreciation is an understatement that can't box with God. You know, you can tell he's in a label struggle right now, trying to get out of that. Hope everything gets resolved so we can hear more Stove God music. Um, like I said, it's a heavily anticipated album. Got Swiss Beats doing the production. Um, Early reviews, I think a lot of people kind of skeptical because they don't know how well him and Swiss are going to do for a whole album. As you see, there's 12 songs in there, but he's got the appearances. Like got the songs lined up, ready to go. So hopefully there's something that can be resolved pretty soon. But yeah, like I said, Stove God had a very built a very big anticipation off of a great album he dropped in 2020, and he's done a lot of appearances since then, a lot of appearances, and you know, hopefully he can get that resolved. So, like I said, he can get the listeners what they want. But yeah, like I said, we got Kanye, we got Stove God album being held back on the shelf, but yeah, that's pretty much what was out and what was supposed to be out. But moving on to we got an anniversary today of a album that was released. It's been 20 years since Ti dropped his infamous King album. This along this is amongst one of his best five albums. This has always been debated as one of his top five albums, without a doubt. This came out at his peak of Ti's career. This is the one where, it came out in 2006, like I said, 20 years ago exactly, 20 March 28th. This was at the peak of the pinnacle of Ti's career. He was pretty much looked at as one of the best artists, if not the best artist in hip hop at that point. He had three great albums from I'm Serious, the trap music, the urban legend. He just kept building and building. And at this point, it was like peak T.I. Like I said, the ATL movie came out. What You Know About That was on there, was the lead track. He cleaned up awards, all that good stuff. So he got a lot of reverement off this one. This is kind of, you know, many, I wouldn't necessarily put it above urban legend or even trap music, but this is kind of the album where everybody knew Ti at this point. Ti was pretty much a household name. So, this album right here was probably the most commercial. Like I said, after that it was Paper Trail. But yeah, Ti at his peak right there as far as recognition, getting his flowers. This was the album for him. So yeah, this was 20 years since this mark, and it lets me know how old I am. You know what I'm saying? Like I was 21 when this came out. I'm like, geez, you know what I mean? So, and then you look at the track list. You got track number two, the infamous front back, appearance with Pimp C and Bun B, UGK. Like I said, track three, that was the one that was all over the place. What You Know About That? I'm Talking to You. It's kind of when he was coming off the heels of his beef with Lil Flip. Um, Living in the Sky with Jamie Foxx is an appearance on there. Ride with Me. Why You Want to Do That? Top back. I think like the first nine tracks were pretty much hits. You know what I mean? Like he came out strong on this album right here. Um, you got the Undertaker with DJ Drama, Young Buck, and Young Dro. That one right there. I think the beat on that one's still hard. Got appearances with BG and Young Jeezy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ti definitely came with it with this one. Like I said, easily one of his top five albums that he came with. This was him at his absolute peak. Like I said, that first 9, 10, 11 album run right there. I mean, that was a pretty strong album. And like I said, he had a lot of commercial appeal to this one as well. You know what I mean? He had a song for the ladies, he had a song for the club, the little bangers. Um, he had Good Life with Pharrell and Common. He had Bankhead with his boys, PSC and Young Dro. Yeah, this was a pretty great album. Like I said, Ti was at his definite peak. One of the best rappers of the 2000s as far as impact, as far as discography. Like I said, this is probably the album that um, personified his run. Like I said, was it his best one? Debatable, but this album right here was pretty much him at his peak. Yeah, pretty much at his peak. But like I said, 20 years is the release from it. Um, that was a great anniversary to have for him and everything. He made a great contribution to the culture. Definitely during this time period. So, like I said, peak Ti, salute 20-year anniversary. King is Dead album should be coming out soon this year as well. So that's a great that's a great anniversary right there. Kanye West gave us a release, and still following the Stove God Cooks, and whenever him and Swiss Beats can get that album released to us. But yeah, we're gonna move on into part two of the best albums of the 2020s. You're just jumping on. I encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. Like I said, Part one last week. Got into some great albums that released. Um, part two this week. Still more great albums. It was a high volume of albums that was released over the past 6 years. I would say an album almost, it felt like for a good span, it felt like an album per week. It was like two or three albums, you know, and then artists were dropping like four or five albums a year. High quantity. Like I said, the streaming era, the way everything is set up now, you kind of have to just keep pushing out large volumes of music. Um, Singles definitely have to keep those going. I definitely gotta have a good wave of music coming out in constant droves and everything like that. Like I said, and it's a lot of singles. And the fact that there's a lot of singles, you gotta have you gotta be able to come with it because a lot of times people just get to make their playlists and then they just take the singles off the albums and make a playlist. So it's kind of hard to just really get an album that's revered as a classic, anything like that. But there's a lot of work out there. There's a high volume of albums with a whole bunch of different singles scattered all over the place. So I kind of just scour through the albums, and then I just, you know, basically just find my singles, make playlists off them as well. So I understand the sentiment behind that. But even then, like I said, it's a lot of music out here to delve through, and I'm gonna pick up a part two where we left off, and we're gonna start off with some OGs. And what OG better than an OG that kept on and went on a 6 album run in the 2020s? Nas. You look at Nas from the span of 2020, he did King's Disease 2, Magic, King's Disease 3, Magic 2, Magic 3. I mean, he did an even more Light Years album with DJ Premier. Feature presentation, that's a performance pretty much type of album. But yeah, we're gonna go back into King's Disease. This album right here was the start of his run with producer Hit Boy, and they just found this magical touch, and they just had nothing but, I mean, just hit for 6 straight albums is crazy. I mean, like if I measure them all, they all kind of measure a little bit more than the other, but 6 quality albums at at an age where everyone's feeling like, oh yeah, older rappers couldn't really keep going like this, but Nas went on a machine like run, and he touched a new level of rhyming. The production was matching it as well. Hit Boy was on a different level too. So yeah, I mean, it was just great cohesion for 6 albums. If you look at the first track, King's Disease, Blue Benz part in the front being pretty small, but I'm just gonna yell out the tracks to you. I mean, you see King's Disease right here. I would encourage you all to, if you haven't delved into it, yeah, you definitely got to go back and revisit it. Um, got Charlie Wilson on card number 85. Got Ultra Black with Hit Boy, 27 Summers. He brought back Full Circle with The Firm, AZ, Foxy Brown, and Cormega. He's got Spicy with Fabio Foreign and ASAP Ferg. Yeah, Anderson Pack on All Bad. Yeah, Nas started this run with a great album, and then you go into Kings. Then he followed it up with King's Disease 2. You had the Pressure, Death Row East, 40th Side, EPMD 2, with Eminem and EPMD. Yeah, Lauren Hill appearance on there. He had Charlie Wilson back for No Phony Love. Composure with Hit Boy. You know, yeah, Nas went on a historical run. Won a Grammy for King's Disease 2 as well, I believe. Yeah. And Speechless, 46 building on the first of the Magic series. So he had 3 series. I mean, he had 2 3-part series. He had one King's Disease series that overrode with the Magic series, Magic 1 through 3. If you go to Magic 2, a lot of people debate this is probably maybe the lesser greater of all of them. He had 50 Cent on this one, Office Hours. He had a collabo with him on 21 Savage. Um, that one was debated probably as the least strongest. Magic 3 followed it up. I mean, topped it off though. I mean, it was just great. Um, this series right here had Never Die with Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne had a great appearance on there. Great feature for Lil Wayne on that one. Based on true events, part 1 and 2. Yeah, this was another solid Nas. This was another great album from Nas. Like I said, 6 albums from 2020 to 2023. Yeah, Nas went on a great run with Hit Boy. It just felt like a wave. It was like before you started even getting used to listening to the first Nas album, it was like, man, you got to alert that him and Hit Boy working on another one. It was like, man, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, if you think back to the '90s and everything, artists dropping 6 albums in that type of span would be considered one of the greatest. So, I mean, Nas, artist that was, supposedly his heyday was back in the '90s. Like he, brought back his youth. He just went on another run. And finally, that last album last year was with DJ Premier. Um, DJ Premier was working hard this last year. Some of the beats that a lot of people felt like was a little too out of touch or just wasn't there and everything like that. I think it was a lot of some of that was criticism was unnecessary. I think some of them was misses, some of them was still some hits, and I was kind of rocking with some of them on on that album. But yeah, I understand it. I understand some of the criticism, but DJ Premier still gave us a few of those. But Nas definitely went on a great run during the 2020s. And not only did he make a great run for himself, he made a great run for other artists, other veteran artists like himself, who who still had the touch. And one of them is Raekwon. Last year, Raekwon dropped an amazing album, Emperor's New Clothes. And that one here was heavily revered as well. If you're OG, definitely got to check this one out. Um, Definitely felt like only built for Cuban links type of Raekwon a little bit. I'm put a little extra on it. But definitely had some great features on there. He had Wild Corsicans with Raekwon and um, Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine, West Side Gun. He had Inspector Deck from Wu Tang Clan on Pomegranate on number 3. He had some great features. He had some great songs on here. 600 School with Ghostface and Method Man. Brought back some of that vintage Wu Tang. Then, of course, the Omerta, Nas, great feature on that one. And Get Out of Here with Ghostface as well. Yeah, Nas was active with Mass Appeal, getting some legendary artists on there. Um, Definitely got to check that one out if you haven't. You also got Mobb Deep back on there. Prodigy and Mobb Deep. Rest in peace, Prodigy. Um, Havoc did a great job of getting some of those verses from Prodigy and mixed in with his beats. I went over this a couple of episodes ago. Alchemist also jumped on there, did some great production as well. Like I said, if you haven't heard it from the last time I talked about it, go ahead and listen to it. You're slipping. Look at me with the clips. Yeah, go ahead, check that one out, bro. And like I said, Nas took a lot of veterans on the run from De La Soul, Slick Rick, Big L. Um, yeah, man, definitely was a great run for Nas. It was definitely, Nas went on a great run for himself in the 2020s, and then last year just getting a lot of the veterans and the OGs out there. Like I said, yeah, check out a lot of those veterans. Slick Rick, Big L, Mobb Deep, a lot of great veterans you can check out. Um, Next one now, part one, I kind of touched on all of the, more established artists, the artists that we all kind of know, the household names. I'm gonna get into the artists that just out here working, got a strong fan base in hip hop. People know about them. If you know, you know. If you're not, this is why I keep you tapped in at. It's kind of one of my mission statements or my credos on this podcast is to keep people tapped in to everyone. If you like, cool. If you got caught on to somebody new, you can say I point you in the right direction. I'm gonna start off with an artist who went on a great run in the 2020s, I mean 2010s, and just went on a ridiculous run in the 2020s on his own. If you follow the duo Don Tripp and Starlito, they're from Tennessee. Great group. They were a great duo, one of the most underrated duos in hip hop. Like I said, Don Tripp and Starlito. Don Tripp kind of went off on his own and just went on a crazy run in the 2020s. And I mean, like when I say crazy run, I mean I don't even know if I have enough time on the show to even go through all of the albums that he's released from the year 2020 because he just went crazy towards the end of the 2010s. Like you go back to his catalog from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But about took a took a break in 2020, came back in 2021, and it was just like on from there. I mean, I'm gonna say about one, two. I mean, if you count them all off, I mean, it's well over 10, 11. I mean, almost about a good 17, 20 songs, 20 albums. Sorry, not songs, albums. And the albums are full of depth as well. I mean, not like, 12, 13 songs. I mean, he's giving you about a good, well, this one here had 12 songs, but I mean, some of his later work had as many as 23, 24 songs and everything. But, he's had some solid work. I mean, he can give you a good range. That one there had 12 songs as well. So yeah, he had some songs that was considered short on his end, but I mean, he's had some crazy work. You got this deluxe album that he just dropped earlier this year. You see, 23 songs. And Don Tripp is real good with the beat selection. He keeps some up tempo beats. He's got a real slick delivery, real quick, quick witted as far as his rhymes. You know, this one here was a short project here, but I mean, the way he just keeps it coming in volumes. Yeah, he went on a crazy run, like I said, part of a legendary duo. And you can see last year they dropped Step Brothers for Life, the fourth edition of their series between him and between him and Starlito. Yeah, underrated duo. Definitely an underrated duo. Like I said, one of the kings of underground duos, basically. Especially down south. Down south, known for the UGKs, the Outcasts, the 8 Ball, MJGs. So yeah, Don Tripp, you know, one half of the great duo went off on a run by himself, kind of just doing his solo thing. Still had appearances with Starlito on there, but yeah, he went on a crazy run. I should go ahead and check out his discography. His catalog is pretty deep. Like I said, Tennessee product. Another great artist that got it going a decade before this one, but continue to keep going into this decade. Sky Zoo from Brooklyn, veteran hip hop artist. Like I said, he dropped a lot of work starting around 2006, probably 2009. He going through there. 2010s, he went pretty strong. But in the 2020s, he dropped in 2020, he dropped the album Milestone. Only had some 7 songs on there, but they were pretty smooth ones. Memory Served Me, Duffel Bag Weekends. He's got a real smooth delivery, smooth flow, quick rhymes, you know what I mean? Drops a lot of jewels in his music and everything. All the brilliant things. This was another great album that he came out with. I always liked St. James Liquors right there, best style product. Um, best styles burning. I was supposed to be a trap rapper. Plugs and Connections was another smooth album, another smooth single on this album. Um, goes in the 20. Then he kind of took about a 2-year hiatus, came back in with Mind of the Saint, then came back with Keep Me Company and Views of a Lifetime. So he kind of went on like a 3-album run when he took a break. Definitely like his appearances as well. But yeah, Eminent Domain was a dope single. Straight Drop, Apologies in Order. Yeah, I liked a lot of Sky Zoo's work. This one was produced by the other guys. I like the production on that one. It fit his sound. I mean, the sound fit him. And then you look at Keep Me Company. I like this one as well. Esoteric was a nice, smooth classic, nice, smooth track. Jazz in the Projects, Community Service. Yeah, I like Sky Zoo, man. I'm big on Sky Zoo. Views of a Lifetime. Pardon Me, Tags at the Mama. Yeah, Sky Zoo went on a nice album run in the 2020s. Yeah, he was pretty good, man. 2010s, I liked him as well. He didn't drop off at all in the 2020s. Another great album that came, another couple great projects that came out. I can't talk about another another great run without talking about Currency. This is the guy who feels like he drops almost every day. If you look back at his albums and his catalog, I mean, a ridiculous amount of work. Another one with a ridiculous amount of work released in just the 2020s alone. He had the Tonight Show with DJ Fresh, um, Smoking Partners. He's done with NDP. A lot of different mixtape style type of releases along with albums. I like Vices right here. He did with Harry Fraud. This was a good one. He had Benny the Butcher appearance on this one. 86 Testarossa with Rome Streets. Yeah, Marble Columns with Larry June. Yeah, I was definitely feeling that one right there. Um, he got another 2 series right here in 2024 that he dropped with DJ Fresh. I like the sound that he put together on this one. He has some really good. One thing about Currency, he's always gonna have great beat selection. And he's got a smooth, laid back flow. It's almost monotone. Look at the Encore as well. Another one, the Vapors. Got to check that one out too. New Devils with Ramirez from the Bay. DJ Fresh does a lot of production out on the West Coast as well, so that sound fit with Currency real good. I like how Currency is easily to adapt on different styles of beats. He can go from down south to West Coast to East Coast, Midwest, no matter. Currency can almost good for any beat. Never Catch Us. He's always good with Wiz Khalifa. Good collabo right there. Money Magnet with Rome Streets and Conway the Machine. He has Styles P and O3 Greedo and Babyface Ray on True Lies. This is another project with him and Harry Fraud that came out last year too. Never Catch Us. But yeah, if you're not hip to Currency, you got to catch up on Currency as well. He's got a great catalog. Like I said, I'm on the Apple Music right now, going through different albums. This is what I usually find. I track down artists and go through their whole work and just, you know, even if I don't like the album, I'm gonna find a couple singles off of at least a couple of those tracks. So, being a hip hop head that I am, that's how I keep people tapped in. You should also tap in the same way. Um, Talked about his appearance with Larry June. Well, Larry June is another artist that heavily at work all the time. He's been on a great run in the 2020s. Got a big fan base as well. Um, grinding, kind of with very little major promotion. If you look at his work that he's dropped over the last 6 years, um, he dropped a lot of projects in 2020. He got busy during the pandemic. Yeah, during the pandemic, he was dropping everything. Adjust to the Game, Cruise USA. You know, you don't know Larry June. He's big on the oranges. That's kind of his trademark. Numbers. That's kind of where I really started really taking notice to him. Product of the Dope Game was 2019. I heard that one, and then I kind of just caught on to him towards the end of his 2020 run. The pandemic was a crazy year. But from Uncle Herm Part 2 is always a funny intro. This one right here, Feels So Right. Got Dej Loaf on there, Jay Worthy. A lot of great production. He's another one just like Currency, always big on the production. Orange Print, he's had features on there as well. He's also had some quality songs, 6 a.m. and Sausalito. Yeah, Larry June's got a bunch of singles, a lot of smooth stuff, man. I like to call it, him and Currency is what we call lifestyle rap. He's real good at just, chilling, laid back, talking about growth and all type of things like that. He's really big on the grown man rap. He's did work with Alchemist. Spaceships on a Blade was another great album. But The Great Escape, yeah, this one was the album that he did with Alchemist. This one got a lot of applause. He had Big Sean on there, Action Bronson, Slum Village, Boldy James had a couple features, Wiz Khalifa. But one of my favorite producers he works with for him is Cardo Got Wings. And he's a West Coast producer out there in the Bay. Larry June, a Bay artist, it just fits better. They just feel like the chemistry is always good with Larry June. And he got Cardo Got Wings, but he's also great with Alchemist and DJ Fresh and other different producers as well. Real smooth, laid back sound. If you ever know about Larry June, go ahead and check him out as well. He went on a crazy run in the 2020s, dropped a couple of great albums. Like I said, Great Escape, heavily revered. Another artist on the East Coast, Dave East. He was an artist that was once signed to Mass Appeal. Kind of does his own thing now. But he's another one that drops a heavy volume of artists, heavy volume of albums. Karma 3 Deluxe was probably one of the pinnacles of that 2020 run for him. He had a bunch of features on this one. I mean, every song has somebody on there from Trouble to Rest in Peace Trouble to Young Dolph to Benny the Butcher. Stone Killer is a great collabo. Those two go back and forth. High power lyricism on that one. Know How I Feel got Mary J. Blige on there. You got Chris Brown as a feature on there. You got Jeezy on there on the remix. It was a lot of songs on the album too, 23 songs. Benny the Butcher, not Benny the Butcher, he was one of the features. That great feature. Was that Organized Chaos? I like Larry June. His voice is smooth. Yeah, exactly. He got a smooth voice and they got the smooth beat selection and everything like that. He got a real relaxing type of vibe when you listen to Larry June. He does great shows too. But back to Dave East, released the Hoffa album This one had Harry Fraud doing the production on this one as well. I enjoyed this one right here. I felt like the production kind of matched it real good. Yeah, Uncle Rick with Benny the Butcher again. Disappearance, that was probably one of the best songs on there. Had Currency as well on this track. Um, yeah, Davies had some pretty good production. And once he finds that production, it's pretty much a pretty solid album. I mean, it's like real steady music from Davies. I wouldn't necessarily put anything like necessarily a classic, but he's had a couple of albums where it's like, there's a lot of volume of music. So you're gonna find some good singles. You got Book of David, you got 30 for 30, you got Apartment 6E, you got Living Proof. Um, Living Proof had Arab music on this one, and Swiss Beats jumping on that one. He had a couple good features and everything. Yeah, this one right here had a lot of up tempo beats on that one. It was a different type of beat selection for him, so it was pretty good though. Um, Had a collabo album with Young Chris from the Young Guns and Ransom. Yeah, Dave East got busy in the 2020s. He definitely showed high signs of good work ethic. That's another thing I respect with an album, with an artist that has a lot of different albums that they're coming with like that nonstop. It's like just definitely you can't deny the work ethic. And like I said, even if you don't necessarily find the whole album's great, you're gonna find at least a couple singles that you're gonna like. You throw those on your playlist and just go with it. Um, Also, oh yeah, gotta show you all. Go back down south. My man Denzel Curry. Um, Not a high volume of music, but the albums he dropped are definitely hitting. Oh, yeah, strictly for this. That came out this year too. Kings of the Mischievous South. Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. This right here was probably one of my favorite ones. He had T Pain with Troubles on this one. This was a good one right here. I like that one. Walking was a great single as well. Ain't No Way with Six Black, Rico Nasty, JID. Yeah, they got busy on that one as well. And then I also like the album he released in 2024, Kings of the Mischievous South. This one kind of had everybody on here from Kingpin, Skinny Pimp. Like if you're a old school down south crunk music, fight club music listening to type of dude, then this is the album for you. Like I said, Kingpin, Skinny Pimp. Like if you like that underground Memphis stuff, yeah, this is it. I like that underground Memphis stuff myself. Maxo Cream on this one, on Set It. G's Up with Two Chains and Mike Dimes. Cold Pimp with Ty Dolla Sign and Juicy J. He had Sauce Walk on there. Yeah, this one right here was one of my favorite Denzel Curry albums. Like I said, he kind of went on a run too. Like I said, Unlocked, Unlocked 1.5. Yeah, he dropped about 4 or 5 albums in the 2020s. Like I said, including his new one, Strictly for the Sky. Um, this one here only had 8 tracks on there, but I encourage you all to check that out. You got some of the younger artists on there, 1900, Rugrat, ASAP Ferg, Juicy J, some of the OGs on there. So he like to keep it, he's in that in between wave of, dropping a nice volume of music and everything as well. Solid music when it does come out. But yeah, and another artist that maybe a little lesser known but drops quality projects when he does release. Put you on the Nick Grant, South Carolina product. He dropped about 3 projects in 2020s. The last two, Sunday Dinner and I Took It Personal. I Took It Personal just dropped last year. That was a pretty solid project. Um, I think this one was about 14 tracks long. He's got some pretty good lyricism on there, and the beat selection is pretty good as well. Some solid, just blue collar hip hop. Sunday Dinner was also a great project for him. I like this one probably the best of his projects. Worrying About a Classic was a solid one. Dope Fiends Theme since elementary. Yeah. Nick Grant doesn't drop as often as many other artists as they are dropping out here, but when he is, he's dropping some pretty good ones. So I pretty much check him out. Encourage you all to do the same. It's pretty good though. But yeah, I mean, yeah, part two of the best albums of the 2020s. I mean, it's looking pretty good. Like I said, if you tuned in for part one, if you haven't tuned in for part one, go ahead and do that. Um, I pretty much got all of them tapped in, and now I'm gonna follow it. I'm gonna finish it off with the ladies who are dropping off some good music in the 2020s, and I'm gonna start off with Lady Rhapsody. Yeah, Rhapsody doing it holding it down for the ladies, dropping albums for quite a while now, and going all the way back to 2010. She's ripping it through the 2010s as well. Um, but 2024, I mean, yeah, she dropped different releases in 2024 as well. Not too much is busy, but she, dropped, released something. She came out, like I said, one of the solid female artists of the last decade or so. Um, they definitely did a thing though, and also gonna, like I said, gotta look at lady artists who've been holding it down. Those everybody pretty much know. Meg the Stallion. Yep. She's been going since about 2020. She's kind of one of the most popular female artists of the 2020s. Megan Act 2, she last release was in the 2020, was in 2024. But like I said, can't avoid her. See her everywhere. Definitely had a big impact in the 2020s. Of course, gotta have Cardi B as well in that discussion. You know, Invasion of Privacy came out, but she just jumped in the window. Just jumped in the window with a crazy album release from last year. And then you kind of look at the next wave up, kind of see Lotto. And Lotto's got another album coming out soon. Yeah, Big Mama got another album coming out. Congratulations on her pregnancy. Oh, Big Mama already came out. What do you know? Oh, no, not yet. May 29th. Oh, yeah, ladies, y'all want to catch that Lotto album? It'll be on May 29th. Drop Sugar Honey Iced Tea in 2024. 777 2022. So, yeah, ladies. And, of course, those have been kind of the premier ladies that have been going off. And, of course, you cannot forget Glorilla. Our album Glorious came out and got nominated for a Grammy. Gangsta Art 2 came out 3 years before that. Wow, been going for a minute already. But yeah, those are the top four ladies that's been pretty much doing their thing in the 2020s. There's a lot of other ladies out there too. I mean, the whole market. I mean, ladies is all over hip hop right now. So I mean, pardon me for not getting all the ladies in the mix. There's just so many to name. Deep bracket right now. Those are the four that kind of just stuck out throughout the decade. Like I said, if you want to check out these artists, check out your Apple Music. Come back to this channel. Oh, Monaleo, yeah. Monaleo, yeah, she's definitely getting busy out here too. Yeah, definitely got a shout out Monaleo. Definitely doing a thing. But yeah, these are a lot of great artists that are out here doing their thing out right now. Yeah, it's like a whole bracket of them. I mean, especially in Texas. One of the things I always noticed, like in the last 10, 15 years, is like, shout out to Atlanta. Atlanta had a great impact on the mainstream industry and everything like that. Still, as far as mainstream goes, still probably the key city. But music is just coming from everywhere as far as hip hop goes. It's coming from Memphis, Texas, Florida, Midwest, California. Kendrick has come back out. Kendrick and a lot of those artists is out there. Rayvon and the young artists from Cali, Larry June, like I said, from the Bay. You know, got Freddie Gibbs, like I mentioned on part one. Um, East Coast as far as Griselda goes, and the ransoms and everything like that. I like Detroit too as well. Like I said, I mentioned Mickey Diamond. Oh, yeah, Mickey Diamond and Boldy James. Check out a lot of these artists. What I'm saying, do a lot of exploring because they're all over the place. The streaming era's got them all spread out. I try to showcase them as much as we can because we don't really have a 106 in Park or what we grew up on. I'm in my 40s, so of course, you know I know the old showcase of hip hop from countdowns and different things of that nature. So, and in the world now, it's hard to showcase music with a lot of copywriting going on. You kind of have to just follow artists and channels and just kind of hear about them word of mouth or however they promote themselves on social media and different things like that. I mean, but it's such a sea of artists with so much volume out here. It's kind of hard to pinpoint who's really going the hardest out here. So that's pretty tough to climb, but I'm willing to make that climb in the pursuit of great hip hop listening And those who are as well, you can tune into this channel anytime. I got more stuff for you. I'm gonna have more polls, different things of that nature going on, just to engage everyone. But I appreciate everyone for jumping on. Hope you all having a great weekend. That's my time. I'll be back on Wednesday, 8:30, discussing sports, following back up on the March Madness. You see the Sweet 16s wrapping up and everything. Um, I'll be back at it, 8:30. You'll see the notifications and all that on Wednesday, for Wednesday. And be back at it next week for more hip hop, more releases, more discussions, more all type of different things to keep you all engaged. I appreciate you all for jumping on. Like I said, if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, share, tell a friend, visit the channel and everything. Find me on social media. This is Left Fresh on Instagram. This is Left Fresh on TikTok. This is where I'm going to be at. Appreciate you all. Much love, everybody. And that's my time. Y'all have a good night. It's the Left Fresh Podcast.